Ciao, guys. Welcome back to the Artful Podcast. It's Matteo, your host. And before we go on with the new episode, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, support the channel like that. It's really important. And no further ado, let's go on with the show. Are you in your studio?
Yes, I am.
Oh, I can see all the artworks. They look great.
Yeah, thank you. We actually just got some new furniture, so I was trying to get all of this set up because I forgot that I moved everything. So
Yeah,
we're here.
we get messy most of the time, and just some days you just spend
Yeah.
time to just fix the studio a little bit.
It was the weekend project.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Artful Podcast. Today we are going to interview Laura. She's an amazing artist that I found through Instagram. I saw her artwork and I was really curious to talk to her and talk about her practice. So welcome Laura to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
That's fantastic. Do you want to just introduce yourself, a little bit of your background, if you had any studies or where you're from, and the whole stories, and then we pick it up from there.
Yeah, sounds good. So my name is Laura Arango Bayer. I'm actually from Colombia, despite my very American accent. I lived in Miami for a very long time, and I studied at a design and architecture school there. And then I found out about the wonderful world of academic painting. So I decided to pursue that. It was kind of a huge risk because at the time I thought it was something that I could never do, but you only live once. So I jumped in and I went to a school in Italy called the
Nice.
Angel Academy of Art. Yeah. I lived there for 2 years. I finished the program. Then I wanted more. So I went to Grand Central Atelier in New York City, and then I finished the 2-year program there. And then after that, I wanted more. So I did 3 months with Odd Nerdrum.
Nice, amazing. Where was in Italy that you studied? Was it Florence?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Florence.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I obviously, yeah. You can say in your style, it's really. I love these kind of paintings. I love your kind of styles, and that's where I grew up because I'm from Italy, south of Italy,
Yeah.
and that's what I used to see all the time, and that's really I feel a connection straight away when I see stuff like that. So a lot of studies. That's fantastic. I really appreciate when artists do get through all the academics years and suffering to become an artist. What was your first impact with your because you said you did design first, right?
Yeah.
And then you
Design.
jump into do more art academic studies. What was your first impact of the transition?
Oh God, I loved it. Because in traditional, I guess traditional in like the Renaissance, type of painting, I was always attracted to that. And then unfortunately the design school that I went to, they were very modern. They didn't really teach you. It was more like, oh, just do what you feel. But at the time I was studying art history at school, and when we reached the Renaissance, I was like, I want to paint like this. How do you paint like this? So I was very dissatisfied with the way that modern schools teach. And I didn't know that you could learn like the old
Yeah.
masters until I met someone who studied at a school, well, at Angel Academy. And then I was like, I'm going there. I have to. Because I was the only weirdo in my painting class that was using oil paints. Everyone else was using acrylics. And I remember there was this classmate of mine who even made it like seem like I was an idiot for using oil paint. Like he was like, "Why are you using oil paint? It takes forever to dry." And I'm like, "Because I like it."
Yeah. There is certain quality after. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's I know what you mean. It's really difficult to find. There is a lot of people that do like old master kind of style paintings, but especially in academy in the first years of artist studies, it's really difficult to find somebody go straight away into oil and they did that kind of style of paintings, because it seems as really old and it's not good anymore and that kind of thing, which I really do not believe. So it's literally like where we are as an artist, it's your bread and butter. Like you should have some sort of like basic skills in that kind of environment, in that kind of way of doing stuff, and from there you can bring it to another level. You can break some boundaries and then you can play with it. But the classic cheesy you have the skills and then you break it, and then you break the boundaries. So I really do appreciate when I see people that are really into this kind of Renaissance art and still doing it in these days, which is super important. Okay, let's how was your school here? Was it difficult for you to when you moved to Italy, and what was your impact even as a foreigner, as outside studies? Even if it's in Florence, I think it's really common to see people going there for studying art.
Yes.
And yeah,
Yeah.
as like no Italians, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
How was your that time of being in Italy?
Oh, I loved it. I
Hmm.
loved it. Florence is such a magical, beautiful city. Like you walk through the city and you're transported in time. And for me, my favorite thing was walking through those, cobblestone streets and imagining that Da Vinci walked through there. Like, oh
Hmm.
my God, Da Vinci walked through here and Michelangelo walked through here. It's amazing. And it's such a beautiful place too. I mean, every single corner of the city is, oh, it's like, it's magical. I miss it. I really miss it. I don't miss the tourists because it can get really bad, especially in the summer. But I really miss being surrounded by classical,
Hmm.
beautiful paintings because you're just inspired all the time, you know?
Imagine as American as well, like you don't really see that kind of things
We don't.
where you're from. Yeah. So I can imagine, especially if you love that kind of yeah style and art, being in those places, it's a treat. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm happy that you really enjoyed your time there. Did you come out after school with a lot of skills? You knew what to do, and from there, how was your journey to become a professional artist?
Ooh. Well, I feel like that journey is never really over.
Mm,
The hardest transition is from academic student to professional. And personally, I don't believe you ever stop learning, right? I'm still a student, but I'm no longer a student of specific schools. I'm now a student of nature and a
mm,
student of, I guess I would say, philosophy more than anything, because a lot of people they gain a lot of skill, but then they don't really use it, or they don't express any of the deeper truths of life with them. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, painting a beautiful still life or a beautiful portrait,
yeah.
but for me, I need more. I need what Rubens was giving. I need what Titian was giving. I need more of that, I guess, romantic
Mm,
human expression of something happening, right? And in order to do that, for example, I've been reading On Poetics by Aristotle, because Odd Nerdrum recommends that as one of the best books to read to understand the importance of a good story, specifically tragedy as a good
yeah.
story. So the transition from student to professional has not been easy, because I feel like I'm still in that transition. Like I'm still just emerging and finding my voice as a painter. Because there's this funny thing that happens too in academic school, which is you become very, I guess, dependent on being given projects on one side,
Yeah,
right?
it's
They
true.
tell you just do this, do that, right? When you're free on your own, you don't have someone telling you like, oh, do this now, do that now,
Yeah,
right? You're more, I guess you have to figure out your own cycles and your own rhythms so that you can then be productive. But then not just that, it's like you can stand in front of an empty canvas and be like, what the hell am I going to paint? Like, you can
yeah,
paint anything, right? So, thankfully, I'm not the type of person who struggles with ideas. I actually have way too many. Um, so, if anything, I struggle with getting, for example, like a model because I'm living right now in a very small town, right?
mm.
Like of maybe 2,000 people
Oh, okay.
in the Arctic
Yeah,
in Norway.
really small.
Yeah, it's very small. So I guess now it's just struggling with yeah, or not really struggling, but playing. Because I like to think of it now as playing. In school, it's like it's very strict. It's very much do. But you're not really allowed to play and express and
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
Especially like, yeah, your studies that you did is really like step by step.
Yes.
And that's, yeah, there is a structure on the
Mm-hmm.
on what to do and how to do it.
Yeah.
So how do you then find the no, I wouldn't say the energy, but the um yeah,
Motivation.
the way to for you to play, to be always on peace, and kind of not lose that, even in your condition, being in that smaller town could be really defeating, and be like, oh, and then I have to find another model, and as you said, it's difficult. How do you find that pushing through those
Hmm.
difficulties?
I've been realizing more and more that it's more like I'm the kind of person who, if I take a break, it's very hard for me to stop taking a break.
Hmm.
So, like, that's also what I mean about, noticing your own cycles and your own rhythms. So for me, it's I just need to go, go, go. If I stop, um, I will stop when I know I need a break, but not just like, oh, I'm gonna take a break now. No, it's go, go, go. So even if I'm, not working on a painting, maybe I'll still be sketching out ideas,
Hmm.
still putting down any ideas, poetry, and then, have those ready and set. And maybe have like, if I can't paint something, I'll just be like, okay, I'm gonna stretch some canvases and get them ready
Yeah.
for when that inspiration strikes, because then I won't be putting so many steps between me and working, right? Sketching is also something else, like self-portraits and trying to sketch more and more from imagination. That also helps a lot because that's something else that they don't really teach you at the academy, which
Hmm.
is paint or draw from imagination. And I understand why it's not very easy, but I think it's extremely important because when you sketch from imagination, you realize the information you're missing for your drawing, right? It's like, how does this actually look? How does the
Hmm.
chin actually look in this direction? And that forces you to work from memory, which I think is the most underrated thing to
Yeah,
work from.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Working from memory is it can be so challenging, that I think that's why it's so important.
Mm,
I do that a lot. Uh, Even like for random sketches, going maybe to a cafe and then try to capture a moment, and then maybe sketch it later, or
yeah.
even through a photo, looking at a photo and then put a photo away and then draw it. I do
Mm-hmm.
that a lot, and I think that helps a lot to because I do a lot of portraits, so it helps me to notice the details, and the details are the one that makes every face different, and yeah, make it stand out from another. So that I completely agree that that exercise, it's really important for artists to do, especially if
Mm-hmm.
they do natural elements, or like organic, like portrait, or still life, natural, or I think that's really important for because in a way it's kind of like moving really slow, like your face obviously stills, but it's an organic thing, so it moves constantly, and it's really important to do that exercise. I think I agree, it's good. There is so many exercises that you can do actually to like improve your skills. Even you don't need to. I work a lot on projects, so I have like a series of paintings or drawings, and I do, and obviously I do commissions, but I do work a lot on like this series, and it's taking a break is good. As you were saying, but at the same time, I still want to like do some stuff. So I do some sketches, and randomly, like it's not connected to anything, it's just a random drawing. So yeah, taking break is good, but for me, I still need to do a little bit to kind of like keep it going. I feel like I will lose the skills if I don't exercise at all. Which is a case if you don't feel like you have that natural talent, and then you want to keep it going and make it better. Let's talk about a little bit more of your. I'm a practical. I'm a practical guy. I want to know like how you actually start from the beginning, from zero to the finish your painting. As you mentioned before, you stretch your canvases, which is it's an art form that is dying in artists, and it's really difficult to find people that know how to do it, and especially young artists, and keep it through your how you do your paintings.
Okay, yeah. Well, it starts out as a sketch, like a tiny little thumbnail sketch. And from there, I might play with the composition a little bit, but not too much, because once I'm in front of the actual canvas, that's when I like to develop it more. And actually, what's funny is in academic school, it's very much step by step, right? There's really no room for experimentation or playing. So what I like about, having a thumbnail and then sketching it on the canvas, kind of like you see in this one over here, she's charcoal, she's on a stretched, prepped canvas. What I like about it is I could just erase it and move stuff around anyway. At academic school, they would not let you not let you do that. So thumbnail sketch, then I would sketch it on the bigger canvas with charcoal. And that's something I'm experimenting with, because usually I start drawing directly with oil, but I like the charcoal because I can play with stuff and I can move things around. After that, I'll start laying in some of the main colors, and I'll try to see if it's, where is the light coming from? Because these images, that I'm starting to play with, they're from imagination. So for the most part, like I'll have a reference, like a model, myself, or someone else, but I still, want to create a scene that seems like it's from a dream, or from, how in dreams the lighting doesn't really make sense if you think about it, but it still makes sense somehow. So I want to bring that in my work, and experiment with the harmony of what's going on, and play around within the portrait, because I use limited palette. I only use 4 pigments and that's it. Which is nice because it immediately already creates a harmony, but it's still enough where I can still get very, very subtle with it. So like looking at the portrait and being like, okay, where can I add some broken color, or where can I add some, once I already know that the form is working, then play within it. And one of the things that I learned from Odd Nerdrum was also sandpaper. I had never used sandpaper before. Quick note, if you use lead white, do not use sandpaper. You will poison yourself. I do not use lead white, obviously, or cadmiums, or I don't use any of the heavy metals, because I'm well aware that I don't want to consume it. But, you know, the sandpaper is really nice because, you know, if there's a section that I want to layer more or a section that I want to give more, it just creates like a really beautiful sense of depth and feeling in the actual painting, because you're left behind with the ghost of what was there before, and then you work on top of it, but it's still kind of there, and it makes the image look like it's vibrating, and it's so beautiful,
I see what you
especially
mean.
when,
Yeah.
you know, yes, and then you layer those colors and you layer with glazes, um and that's the part where it's like play. But I guess primarily from the beginning, it's knowing what you're going to do, you know, having that sketch, having it, you know, doing the sketch on the canvas. And then, you know, what I like to use is I like to use the one of these composition armatures. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the one that I believe Titian used to use. And it's great because then, you know, I can decide, well, there's this element that I want to include. Um, I lay the, you know, the armature, and then I see, okay, it looks like it would be more harmonious to put this here because that's where this cross is happening.
And
It
then you
creates
had,
tension.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you're
So
not really you're open to changing your composition, your paintings. You don't find that difficult
no.
to approach. That's good. I find for me it's so difficult to do that. Yeah, it's yeah, I
It's
struggle with that.
scary. It's really scary.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What does it, as you said, it's important to know from the beginning what to do. How do you find the inspiration? What does inspire you to create the composition or the portrait? And then you get into the painting. What is your process there? What what does inspire you to
Okay.
paint?
Oh man. Um, so I'm like the type of person that it's very easy for me to get flashes of ideas, especially when I hear a certain phrase or I'm reading a certain book or poetry. I will immediately get a flash of something that's happening. Or I'll be listening to certain music, like
Mm,
classical music, and I can imagine something happening. And if I find that it fits my standard of a good story, then I pursue it. You know, I'll still sketch it even if I don't think it's 100% great, because I
mm,
believe it's still good to have a bunch of ideas, because in the future I can look back at my little sketches and be like, oh, I want to revisit that one, but I want to change this about it, you know? So I have years and years of little thumbnail sketches just from
I
listening
see.
to a song that makes me feel a certain way. And sometimes even when I think about my relationships with people, you know, my friends, my family, sometimes it can be difficult, sometimes it can be easy. Of course, I love the tragic side of life.
Yeah.
So I tend to lean towards, you know, portraying tragedy or sadness, or, you know, because it's like uh, tragedy, there's just something in tragedy that makes it beautiful, you know. Even
Vulnerable.
Aristotle says that the yeah
Mm,
Aristotle says that the highest form of poetry is tragedy, because it creates something that, you know, makes you feel fear or pity, but the whole act together can be seen as this beautiful display of the human condition. So I tend to lean towards tragedy. I know people like, you know, pretty images too of like
yeah,
happy
yeah.
things. I still, you know, love. I'm very romantic, so I'll still paint like something romantic, but
Has a hint of
I like the
sadness.
tragic parts.
I
Yes,
like it. I
it
like
has to
that.
have a hint of sadness.
I like
Yes.
that. It's as you mentioned a lot of times with portrait, especially because you do similar stuff that I do. It's story is really important for in my practice. Storytelling, it's something that it's my main focus. I do series of portrait for immigrants and refugees, so there is a story connect to the portrait, and it's sometimes it's not fun, it's not like a fun story, and so it's a lot of like internal emotional that I want to portray as well. It's their story, but it's my reaction to their story. So storytelling is so important and in our practice, and it's really, I think it's the basic of what people are interested to anyway. If you think about it, like from the beginning, I don't know, when we were like in caves and stuff, the time that we just sit down around the fire and just tell stories, that was our TV before. Like stories is
Yes.
so into our like into our history as people, as human, and I think that's so beautiful. There are people like you or me that exploring this kind of way of telling stories, and we do it with portrait and art, and that's fantastic. Why, especially like when you did all these studies, I imagine that you explore landscaping and still life. Why did you specialize and go through more portrait?
Well, actually, at all the schools that I went to, it was very much more about the figure and still
Okay.
life, and that's it. We didn't really explore portrait too much, which is why I was very dissatisfied when I finished at the second school that I went to. I finished the program, but I felt like I wanted more for myself too. So I decided to challenge myself by painting 60 master copies of portraits. I didn't complete it because right when I was doing it, I was able to go and study with Odd Nerdrum, so I had to put it on pause. But in that time I was able to complete 20, and that made a huge difference because I sucked at portraiture. I was the worst at it. But after just doing 20 portraits, one per day, a la prima, oh, it changed my life. I'm no longer afraid of portraiture. I'm no longer afraid of just putting it on there. Unfortunately, though, I have not and did not get to do plein air. I'm considering trying it here because there's a gorgeous landscape here. So I think that would be the next direction to go
The
with
next challenge that you
learning those
have.
skills.
That's
Mm-hmm.
that's really important that as an artist you decide consciously to challenge your and face your fear of portrait. And sometimes as an artist you can get comfortable in doing your thing that it's easy for you to do, can be portrait or landscape or whatever it is, and then you get just stuck in that because you don't want to. There is a lot of like emotional when you do those challenges and
Mm-hmm.
you kind of want to face your fear. It's a lot of emotional baggage that you have to face. um the
Yeah.
stress in not getting it right and the whole process, it can be a lot. And all the artists
Oh
that are
yeah.
listening, they can relate and they can understand what we're talking about here.
Oh my
So
God, yes.
it's really nice and important that you did that for your practice, and then
Mm-hmm.
you come out with those beautiful portraits that you do now. So it's all good
Thank you.
for us as well, that we can witness your skills. So that's
Yeah.
fantastic. What have you have planned for the future? Like, what do you want to do with your paintings, and um, where do you want to go for with your heart?
Oh man. I oh, you know, I feel like, you know, that question is one of the reasons why I'm a painter.
Mm,
Um, it's because I feel like it's this lifelong goal. It isn't something like for me if I come to a point where I don't see myself improving anymore, I feel like I failed.
mm, love it.
So for me it's like, yeah. Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Oh, I said that I love the idea of, you thinking like that is good.
Yeah, yeah. Because the moment that you fall into a formula for things, like formulas are really nice because they give you a result and you know the result you're
Mm,
gonna get. But that's a problem too, because what if you can improve the formula? What if you can get an even better result? So I think in part it's taking my skills as far as humanly possible. I know I could probably never really reach that goal, even at the end of my life. But it doesn't mean I won't try. And then also, personally, I want my paintings to speak to people, I'd like to joke and say that I want my paintings to haunt people, but not in a scary way, more like
Yeah,
haunt, like they just can't forget about them. Um,
yeah.
which is
Leaving an
something that
exhibition and then they still
Mhm.
thinking about your portrait. Yeah, I like that.
Yes, in the same way that you would see like any painting by Da Vinci or any painting by you know, Rembrandt, and you can't forget it. It's ingrained in your memory,
Yeah,
and I want my work to reach that point.
I like that. I like that. It's good. Let's I don't want to take too much time of your day. But I want to ask you one last question. If
Yeah.
you have a little piece of advice for young artists that want to get through and do and become an professional artist, what would you like to say to them and as you with your experience?
Wow. Okay. Whew. There are so many things I would want to recommend to someone. First of all, you know, you might not get support from people, from your family, because, for example, when I told my mom, "Hey, mom, I
Mm.
want to be an artist," I remember she came to my room that night. She sat on my bed and she said, artists don't make money. And I was like, I'll show you. And from there, she stopped. Now she's, of course, I think my number one fan, which is great. But I think one of the things to face is, one, you might not get support from
Mm.
your family or from people. They might say you're crazy. They might say you're going to starve. That's a fucking lie, by the way. I hope I can curse on the podcast,
No,
so that's a
yeah,
lie. Okay, good. That's a lie. And as with anything, you get what you put into it. Um, if you're doing it just because, that might not be the right path. But if you're
yeah.
doing it because you have no other choice, like within you, you have to do this. This is your life. Then go for it, 100%.
Give 100%.
It's Yes, because there are so many people out there who, you know, I feel like if they gave all of their life to that one thing they love, they could take it to the next level, but that fear
Yeah.
holds them back. And I would say, don't be afraid. Um, if you are afraid, get a job. Get like a regular job, maybe at a grocery store, anything to pay the bills, while you are pursuing this. And then trust that there will come a point where, just from, doing online studio sales or starting to work with a gallery, your paintings and your art will make you more money than your day job. And then that's when you know that you can quit that day job and just
You
focus
can, yeah.
100%. Mm-hmm.
Love the advice. Yeah. Sometimes it can be really challenging and tough. The struggles, the struggle is real.
Yeah.
But if there is no other choice, for me, there is no other choice. I don't see
Mm-hmm.
any like I can't do anything else. It's
Yeah.
I have to do this, and I feel like it's important for me to do this for, yeah, telling those stories and for what I want to do. So that piece of advice, it's a great piece of advice. Yeah, if you
Thank you.
if you want to do it 100%, just do it. And do I personally took too long to decide to do this, and I that's the only regret I have. And but I'm doing it now, so it's all great. So anyway, thank you, Laura. Thank you very much to be part of the podcast. It was great, and
Yeah, of
keep
course.
going with your artworks. They are great, fantastic. Anything that you want to
Thank you.
plug before we leave? Your Instagram or
Oh
website or
man. Sure, yeah. And actually I do have one other piece of advice, or like
sure.
one thing that I would also like to say, if that's fine, which is, it's never too late. Just because you mentioned that, it's
Yeah,
never ever too late.
true.
It's too late when you're dead, but
Yeah,
there are people out there who started very late in their careers and they still made a name for themselves. So you got this, bro.
fantastic. That's
Now,
great.
in terms of a plugging, I actually just started a YouTube at the beginning of the year,
Amazing.
and there I've been putting basics about academic art school, what it's like, and how to find the right school for you. And then in the future, I'll be uploading videos on how to do a cast drawing, how to do a portrait. Like I'll be covering basically everything that you would learn at academic school, because I think I have so many wonderful followers on Instagram who message me asking for advice or how they can study these things, but they can't go to one of these schools because I realize I
Yeah,
have the privilege
can be
to be able to
expensive.
go.
Yeah,
Not Yeah, and not a lot of people can move from, say, like Malaysia and go all the way to Florence, Italy to study, also because visa and a bunch of other
yeah,
things that come into play. So I thought, okay, I want to make as much of this available to people, because all of this information, we almost lost it in the 20th century when realism was not popular. So I
yeah,
thought, okay, I want to share this. One, so it's on the internet forever, it never gets lost. And two, because I think this, teaching people this can enrich their lives and help them, feel more hopeful that they can actually improve at home without having to, God, spend so much money going to one of these schools, and maybe they won't even get what they need there.
yeah.
So I want to do my best and give
Amazing.
people everything.
Yeah, all the links will be in the descriptions, so
Yes.
they can just go and click and follow you, and yeah, subscribe to the channel as well. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
That
Great.
sounds amazing. Thank you very much, Laura, to be part of the podcast, and
Of
I hope
course.
yeah, keep going with your work. They're fantastic, and thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.